Hey everyone, June Williams here, and you are at the beginning of an incredible journey that we are going to be on together. So this is the Getting Started video for the Getting Back to Easy program. So I'm so stoked, let's just get going. I'm going to start off by giving you a program overview. In the Getting Back to Easy program, you are going to be focusing on getting back into warm, easy, and open connection, learning skills for communication, gaining strength in your parenting partnership, and even getting your sexy back. I am interested in results and outcomes for you, and these are the ones that I have learned are some of the most valuable outcomes that couples can develop in their work for me. And so this is what we will be focusing on. In this process, you are going to be involved in a curriculum, and I want to tell you a little bit about how it works to acclimate you. The program is designed to be completed in 4 months or in 16 weeks. You will have access to me for the entire 4 months. And then after that, a really cool added bonus is that you will continue to have access to the course material for 1 full year. So even if you come back across some patterns or some cycles that we work on together, and you find that you're hitting another snag in the road, you can just return back to the course material, give yourself a little pep talk, and then get right back on track. This is what I want to be kind of coaching you and supporting you as far as what it is that you need to be doing as you're going through each module. So I want you to go through each video in each module, and I want you to go in order. There may be some kind of topics that sound interesting to you. I would encourage you not to skip ahead, but to go through each module in the order presented, and I want you to be going through it at the pace that I recommend. So don't skip ahead, don't rush through. I want you to complete all assignments, and in your coaching calls that you will be attending throughout the program, I want you to be checking in with me to get my perspective on whether or not you're ready to move on to the next module so that you don't get overloaded with content that you haven't yet practiced. I want to talk to you a little bit about the coaching calls, both the function and the format, how they are going to be designed to problem solve as well as offering feedback. I am highly directive. My clients will often say that that is something that they love about working with me, is that I won't just be doing offering validation and kind of chomping through the details of the last fight that you had, but that I will be offering feedback specifically to the pattern that I see happening and offering some ways to get out of that pattern. I'll also be redirecting other focus. We're going to be learning a lot about that together, what it's like to be focusing more on your partner than on yourself, and how my feedback is going to help correct that unhelpful pattern. The format of these coaching calls is just going to start with a check-in. We are going to be summarizing the lesson that you've just been working on, and then we will jump right into problem solving. Important things about how the entire program keeps its general kind of experience of being positive and looking forward to progress. And that is going to be as you each adhere to these house rules. So in its essence, the base of these rules is that you are taking responsibility for things that belong to you. So that means that as you take responsibility, you get curious, you ask questions, you talk about yourself, not your partner, and two other really important pieces, which is no complaining and no blaming. When we talk about things, we talk about it from the perspective of what is it that we can do to make changes, rather than talking about what seems to not be working. I need to learn about what's not working, of course, but I want you to keep that positive perspective so that we can be focused on what kinds of experiments can we run and what can we be learning together. Another thing that we can consider in this Start Here video is how to get help during the program. The goal is that you don't ever feel alone and that you feel like I am your resource to be learning about how to make these big changes in your relationship. So some ways to start in that process of getting help during this program is to take the videos seriously. I want you to be taking notes during the videos because often there will be ideas within that you haven't considered before and haven't learned before. There will be paradigm shifts. So I want you to be taking videos. I want you to intentionally engage in all of the homework. Take it seriously. Consistently be attending your weekly coaching calls, and then I want you to come prepared to each of our coaching calls and maybe have your questions written down, really be thinking about what you want to be working on. You're going to be driving this program forward as far as what are some of your goals that you're wanting to attend to throughout the program. So we need to work on some mindset things. So I want you to be keeping in mind that this program will work if you work it, if you engage, if you practice the skills that I talk about. I've been working on this for a long time with a lot of couples and a lot of families, and these perspectives have come through lots of gathering of data. But discomfort is expected. In fact, I would say if you're not uncomfortable, you're probably not making the kinds of shifts and changes that are really going to make some big impacts. So expect discomfort. It's a sign of growth. And this takes time. Right? So often people will talk about when we want fast results and we want things to be really quick, we want quick changes, and we can make some significant and long-lasting changes, but it does take time. It takes time for our brain to kind of catch on to the new way of doing things, and so that can be frustrating if you don't know to expect it. So I'm telling you now that it does take time, but that we will be in this process together. I'll be reminding you of how to grow and gain stamina for sure. So my next question is, are you ready? We are about to step into the paradigm shift information. I'm going to read this here to you, and it might not sound like it would change anything, but my belief is if each person truly let this sink in and lived their life the way the next two slides read, then the world would change. Okay, so number one, you are responsible for your own life, happiness, and satisfaction. And you cannot change anyone but yourself. As you listen to that and as you read that, you may think, I know those things, that of course makes sense, that's how I believe the world works. But I'm going to challenge that over and over and over and see, in fact, what your internal beliefs and your belief structures have been. And if your belief that you are responsible for your own life, happiness, and satisfaction, and your actions are really in line with each other, we will be kind of finding any ways inside ourselves that we are actually in responsibility for other people and we are in lower responsibility about our own selves that is really helpful. So we'll be finding all of those places in which we're not truly taking responsibility for our own life, or in some ways we end up taking responsibility that doesn't belong to us in other people's lives around us. So we are going to have a little game throughout the program, and we are going to be on the hunt for these dirty words, okay? These dirty words might be a little bit different than what you're thinking about, but here are the dirty words from my perspective. They are ones that identify other focus and blame. So words like blame, being a victim, experiencing entitlement, starting sentences with the word you or your partner's name. And so I'm going to describe to you what it is that other focus does in relationship and how it ends up creating so many problems. So first off, just start paying attention to the situations in which you find yourself using blaming language, you find yourself feeling maybe sorry for yourself or experiencing some victim emotions and thoughts. You're feeling like you're entitled to something, or you start the sentence with you or your partner's name. Even when you're talking to me, I'll help you work on it. But those are going to be the off-limit words in this program. So as we kind of pay attention to what some of the things that are going to be off limits, let me move into some beliefs that will get in the way in this program. So one of the ideas is that self-focus, which is what we're going to be working a tremendous amount on, that self-focus feels selfish. So we will be working a lot on that idea. So first off, I want you to be paying attention to whether or not that comes up for you. So first, we'll pay attention to these beliefs that get in the way. Over time, we will start replacing them with alternate beliefs, and we will move our way through that. Another belief that will get in the way is that you are nervous about whether or not your partner is going to change. How can I be sure that they will change? And so that can really get in the way of you finding your own progress and forward movement in this program. Paying attention to ways in which it's gone badly before can trip your progress up. Thoughts of, I don't know how. I have an idea of how I'd like things to be different, but I don't know how to make the change. And that's something that's really common, and just know that I am here to specifically help you figure out how to make these changes. Thoughts like, I just shut down, or I just completely overflow or go volcanic. I don't know how to have that kind of calm, connected, thoughtful conversation. That's something we're going to work a lot on in the program. Here's another one that gets in the way for a lot of people. It's hard to ask for help. If I ask for help, it means that there's something wrong. If I ask for help, it means that there's something wrong with me. And so that is something that can definitely get in the way. Here's a few more. Just this idea that isn't the roommate situation that we're in isn't just inevitable. Is there really a way that we can feel that spark again? So kind of the belief that I haven't seen it played out in anyone else's life, kind of wondering whether or not it's even possible to feel that way again. Here's another belief that can get in the way in the program. Feeling overwhelmed and worried that your kiddo is going to experience negative impacts if you back off and stay out of some situations that maybe you've stepped into before. We talk about other focus. Some of the ways we can have other focus is focusing on our kiddos, focusing on our partner, focusing on other people's lives, and those situations taking up more space than even our own problems. Here is a parenting belief that will get in the way. I'm just going to talk about it just for one moment, and then we'll really dig into it later. But this idea that you need to be a united front. I'll dig into why and how that ends up getting in the way of this whole big project that we're going to be working on of self-responsibility. And this is huge. If you believe that mistakes mean you're failing, then you will struggle during this program, because the program is based on you being willing to take risks and make mistakes and learn that that meant that you are a human and that you're ready to try again. It's hugely important knowing that some of those are some of the normal beliefs, those are default beliefs, And when we see them and when we notice them, we will call them out and learn a different way to respond. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the process of what will be going on in your own development in this process of being in the Getting Back to Easy program. I want to talk to you about how growth happens. So you see here before you, we have step 1, commitment, 2, courage, 3, capability, and 4, confidence. So you're actually involved in this upward spiral right now. You have made a commitment of your time, of your energy, of your finances. And now what is going to happen when you experience the discomfort of what I'm laying out before you, of what's going to be asked of you, what will be needed is courage. You'll need to step into some of these uncomfortable things, and that is how you get access to step 3, which is capability. You have to first exert your courage in order to grow your competency and your capability, which then makes way for the 4th item, which is confidence. We don't want unfounded confidence. We want confidence that comes from actual capacity. And so in this process, after your capability has gotten you to a new level, then you will experience the benefit and the pleasure of feeling confident and empowered in your own skills. The important thing to remember is then, guess what happens after you have come to a position of feeling confident in a new skill? You start the process over. The goal is to kind of be in a constant upward spiral. So then you take something on, a new commitment to step into. Then you ask your courage to meet you there, which then helps you grow and run your experiments and grow your capability and capacity, which then will give you access to this 4th item, again, of confidence. This process of growth hopefully is going to be recurring over and over in your life, and being a participant in this program is definitely going to ask all of these things of you. And here you are in the courage phase. So just know that that is normal to be feeling nervous about what's going to be asked of you as you move through this growth process. So I've talked to you about how growth happens and what you can expect in that process. I want to also highlight some ways that you can kind of guarantee yourself to fail in this process. These are some things that I have noticed that have really gotten in the way of the couples and families that I've worked with finding growth and finding progress. One of the ways that I really notice they get tripped up is that they focus too much on the other. They focus on their partner. When you get tangled up in the ways that your partner needs to change, you are much less capable of finding the energy that you will need to make changes for your own self. You can get quite distracted by focusing on someone other than yourself, and that will most likely prevent you from finding progress. Another surefire way to fail in this program is to let your immaturity run the show. The tit for tat pattern that I see lots of couples that have been hurt over long periods of time get into really undercuts any energy investment that they could be putting into the relationship that could get them moving forward. So be mindful of immaturity and how much that can stop this process in its tracks. Another surefire way to fail would be to stay invested in perfection. That if you thought that the only way to go forward was to get each of these concepts just right and to implement them perfectly, then you would probably miss out on a lot of opportunities for growth. Your investment in perfection will be an obstacle towards you finding some really creative ways that would actually serve you better. When we're invested in perfection, we miss out on some of the experiments that truly need to be run in order for us to figure out the things that don't work. Your process of helping me understand what things don't work is just as important as understanding the methods and the practices and the skills that do work for you. So your investment in perfection will definitely get in the way of your progress. Another surefire way to fail is to believe that you are supposed to be self-sufficient. Something that I often say is that we were never meant to do this alone. Your self-sufficiency will likely get in the way of you being able to build the resource network to support your relationship and to support your own self, and your investment in making sure that you are completely autonomous and you don't need anyone will prevent you from finding access to some of the benefits that come when we utilize resources, when we allow others to support us, when we step into vulnerability and recognize I am a finite resource and I need help and I need support. The last one here is that focusing on other things is a surefire way to fail. This means your dog, your child, your work, your mother-in-law, whoever it is that gets you twisted up into their story and gets you out of focus on the things you need to be doing for good self-care and utilizing of your own self-soothing, which we'll be talking about, will get you out of the position of being able to make really good progress. This last piece, this focusing on other things, I want to tell you a little bit about the alternative. I want to talk to you about self-focus. The concept of self-focus can be troubling for some people because they fear it's a selfish posture. But let me describe to you what self-focus is. It can be described as saying I spend more time thinking about my problems than other people's problems. I feel secure enough to set and follow through with boundaries. I use creativity to approach my problems. I preventatively pursue self-care. The most important word here is preventative, right? When we are behind the 8 ball and we're completely stressed out and we get so overwhelmed that we shout at the dog and we slam the door in our partner's face, that's not necessarily when we want to be pursuing self-care. Although that would be a good moment for it, we want to be pursuing that self-care ahead of time. We want to be storing up that good care for our own self so that when stress increases, we have access to the resource and the full tank of gas that we need in order to manage that stress. I figure out what I need and I figure out how to get those needs met. So something here at the top, that I spend more time thinking about my problems than other people's problems. The idea here is that if you find yourself ruminating and getting really stuck and spun around someone else's challenges, you try to problem solve, fix, rescue, save, get them out of their problems, and you find yourself spending more time ruminating and worrying about their problems, so much so that you have not taken care of the things on your list. You haven't managed to work on maybe your back pain, getting into a physical therapist. You haven't worked on your own nutrition, finding a way to get some more vegetables in your diet, right? So you notice that you're spending so much time ruminating on other people's challenges to the extent that you're not even taking good care of the challenges and the projects that would be important for your own quality of life. Each of these items in the self-focus, the idea is that if we could spend more quality focus taking really good care of our own selves, then the outcome that tends to happen is that the type of care and the type of attention that we're able to give others is just exponentially higher and better. The idea in self-focus is not that I take care of myself to the detriment of others, but the idea is that in my self-focus, I am able to let other people grow strong to deal with their own problems, and I am also much better at having patience and kindness and compassion when I'm nourished, so that the quality of presence I'm able to give is much better. That is the function of self-focus. And so being able to tease out the difference between selfishness and self-focus is a really important piece of how do we breed better connection, better relationships in our lives. You may wonder what is going to happen. So what can I expect for transformation as far as what happens for others when they go through this program? I can speak for them in saying that their feedback is that they find a better version of themselves, a clearer version, a stronger, more empowered, more compassionate version of themselves. People often say that they feel more alive as well as less burdened. They are able to delineate between what belongs to them and what belongs to their partner and what belongs to their children even, so that they are able to engage in a more energetic and passionate way in life because of feeling less burdened by other people's discomfort in ways that does not support good connection. And the parts that were key in bringing the two of you together start to get uncovered and cleaned off so that they can shine, so that you can really remember what it is, what were the reasons for the initial connection, and how to let those grow and take up more space in your relationship so you can feel excited again about the connection that the two of you have. So I want to talk to you a bit about the overview of the program, and you can understand how while going through this content that it can end up fueling some of those outcomes that we just talked about. So in Module 1, we're going to be talking about taking responsibility and how that is the secret sauce to this recipe we're concocting together, and how self-focus and paying attention to the responsibilities in your own life ends up supporting warm and deep connection to others. Module 2 is going to be understanding inflammation and the primitive brain. You've probably heard of fight or flight, and so we're going to be talking about how the patterns that the primitive brain kind of kicks into action with its reactivity ends up creating relational and emotional patterns that have some unintended consequences, and how we can mitigate some of those. Module 3 is going to be how do we stop the hemorrhage? What is it about our fights that is not working well? And how can we actually learn how to fight well? Fights in essence are not a problem. It's just how they go tends to cause problems. So we'll talk about some strategies specifically on how to get out of harmful patterns and into better ways of communicating things that are really difficult. Module 4 is going to ask the question, who are you and what do you want? We're going to be clarifying values and understanding what components build you, yourself, capital S. Who are you? Where are you going? What do you want? And how do we get clear on those things? Module 5 is going to be, let's talk about sex. We're going to be talking about the dual control model. We have a brake pedal and we have a gas pedal. And if the brakes are on the floor, it doesn't matter what you do to the gas, the car is not moving. And so we're going to talk about how to implement some research and some learning that we've gained from how the brain works and how desire and arousal work, how that can end up supporting a great sex life. Module 6 is going to be considering how do we stop the virus from spreading? How do we keep the negative impacts perhaps from our parents from impacting us, and how do we keep those patterns from negatively impacting our children if we have them? How do we keep that contained and process it and get it mended and going in a healthier direction and have it impact the future generations even less? Module 7 is going to be focusing on dropping the idea that a united front is the most supportive way to be a parent, developing individual parenting philosophies, and using self-regulation and self-calming in order to let the best part of your parenting self shine. And then Module 8 is going to be a wrap-up of everything that we have learned, and you will be building your own connected couple plan. This is what will be launching you out into the future, gathering all the details and the strategies that you've learned throughout the program and kind of collecting them so that you have a cheat sheet to send you out into the future, so that you know when you hit a snag, you can return back to these modules and you can return back to the connected couple plan that you've written out at the end of the program, so that you can get endless support, so that you don't have to continue to run into the old snags and the old patterns that have really not been working for you. So that's the overview of the program. I want to just highlight one last piece to help you understand the foundational components of this program before we shift into letting you focus on Module 1. So you see here in front of you that the foundations that are listed are responsibility, compassion, maturity, and self-limits. So responsibility for your own self and for your own actions to line up with what you say you value. That responsibility is so key, and we will be spending a lot of time talking about it and thinking about it together. Maturity is deeply essential to this process because all of the thought in the world doesn't help if in a moment I let my sarcasm or I let my desire for competition or for revenge or my own feeling like a victim gets me into being in a tit for tat mode. That maturity is so deeply helpful for keeping progress on track. Immaturity will derail this process really quickly, and so focus on maturity is going to be extremely valuable. The third foundational piece you see is compassion. Now this is going to be both compassion for your own self, for your own humanity, for your own mistakes, for your own attempts that fail, as well as compassion for others. Your ability to understand that your partner is probably just as stuck as you are is going to be incredibly helpful. It will kind of lubricate the process. Both self-compassion and compassion for others makes this process go so much more smoothly. And then 4, self-limits. The clarification that I am a finite resource and that I end somewhere is going to be crucial. If we put ourselves in the position of being an infinite resource, of lending out all we have and being left with nothing, kind of a drained, empty shell, we don't have capacity for connection. So understanding how actually setting boundaries, setting self-limits fuels your ability for warm and deep connection, truly believing that so that you can find permission to do the hard thing, which is often to say no, or to not step in and rescue and save the way you have before. Your ability to appreciate that you are finite and that you end and that you must take good care of your own self is a required precursor for deep, lasting connection. So you'll see here these are the 4 foundational components of this program that we will be focusing on. So I want you to pay attention going forward. We've come to the end of this Start Here video to kind of set some expectations about how this is going to work. And I just want a reminder for you. I want you to be watching the videos in order. Check in with me to see when you're ready to move on to the next one. Attend your coaching calls. Do the homework. Take notes. Engage in this program in a really practical way, making sure that you're going through each of the steps so that you can get the absolute most benefit out of all of these pieces of knowledge and wisdom that have been gained from lots of couples that have gone before you. Engaging practically will have a return on investment for you, absolutely. Okay, so I have covered a lot of ground. You can go ahead and move to Module 1 video, and I will see you there.